Hari Om, Bhagavad Gita, Moksha Sannyasa Yoga, Chapter 18, Recapitulation, Part 1. This chapter is actually a recapitulation of entire Gita. Bhagavan Krishna summarizes the entire Gita and gives the freedom to Arjuna to decide. Arjuna, decide as you wish. That is what Bhagavan says. Verse 1 begins with a question from Arjuna to Bhagavan Krishna. Arjuna desires to know from Bhagavan Krishna the truth of sannyasa and what is tyaga. Bhagavan in verse 2 says, wise men know that sannyasa as renunciation of action for desired objects. Other wise men say renunciation of fruits of all actions is tyaga. So, what is sannyasa? What is tyaga? Sannyasa is renunciation of action for desired objects. Tyaga is renunciation of fruits of all actions. In verse 3, Bhagavan says, some philosophers say all actions should be abandoned as evil. All the actions should be abandoned. Some other philosophers say actions like sacrifice, charity, or religious discipline or austerity, they should not be given up. You should give up all actions, but sacrifice, charity, or religious discipline should not be given up. In verse 4, Bhagavan says, he gives his opinion on renunciation. Bhagavan says, renunciation is of three types. In verse 5, Bhagavan says, sacrifice, charity, or religious discipline, or you can call it as austerity, it should not be given up. They must be performed. Why? Because they purify even the wise people with discriminative mind. That is the effect of sacrifice, charity, and religious discipline. In verse 6, Bhagavan says, even these actions are to be done by giving up attachment and the results. Even the charity, even the religious discipline, even sacrifice, they must be performed by giving up attachment. Bhagavan says it is his clear vision. In verses 7, 8, and 9, Bhagavan says what is tamasic, rajasic, and sattvic renunciation. In verse 7, Bhagavan says renunciation of obligatory duties out of delusion is tamasic. Every individual, he has got obligations towards himself and towards the society. That should not be given up. If you give up, then it is tamasic. In verse 8, Bhagavan says, the one who gives up actions because it is painful, it will cause it will affect the physical body, then he gives up those actions. That type of renunciation is of rajasic type. In verse 9, Bhagavan says, the one who does his duties because it is to be done. It is my duty, I have to do it. But he gives up the attachment and the fruits of actions, to the work and to the fruits of actions. That type of renunciation is sattvic. In verse 10, Bhagavan says, the renunciate of actions, soaked in purity, being the one with discriminative knowledge, with all his doubts cut asunder, that is, there is no doubt, neither hates disagreeable action nor attached to auspicious actions. So, who is a true renunciate? The true renunciate is soaked in purity. He performs all actions. There is He neither hates disagreeable action nor attached to auspicious actions because he has got the discriminative knowledge. In verse 11, Bhagavan says, who is a Tyagi? For an embodied being, actions cannot be given up completely. This is very, very important. Once you have got a body, it is impossible to give up any action. That is a clear view of Bhagavan Krishna. Because why? Even if you sit idle, somebody asks you, what are you doing? I am not doing anything, I am sitting idle. That is also an action. So Bhagavan says, for an embodied being, actions cannot be given up completely. The one who is a renunciate of results of actions is called a Tyagi. That is why you can give up the results of actions, not the action itself. So that person is called a Tyagi. In verse 12, Bhagavan says the threefold results of actions: evil, good, and a mixture of evil and good. Anishtam, ishtam, mishram cha. Anishtam, ishtam, mishram cha. So evil, good, and mixture of evil and good that accrues after death. It is only to those who are non-renunciates. This will not apply to a total renunciate. So results of actions, it will not follow after death for a renunciate. For a non-renunciate, it will 100% follow. It will come along with him. In verse 13, Bhagavan says, Ye Arjuna, there are 5 causes for the accomplishment of all actions. This is said in the Vedanta, which is the end of all actions. In verse 14, Bhagavan says, what are those 5 causes? 1. Physical body. That is important. Without physical body, how will you perform action? 2. The doer or ego. You must have an ego to perform actions. 3. The organs of perception and the organs of actions. That is 3. 4. The activities of the pranas. And 5. The presiding deity, Deva. All these 5 must be present for accomplishment of any action. In verse 15, Bhagavan says that whatever action is performed by a man by his body, speech or mind, whether proper or improper, these 5 are its 5 causes. So these are the basis. This is the basis for performing an action. In verse 16, Bhagavan says, while this is so, the one who sees the pure self as an agent, because of his immature mind, his thinking is distorted. He is not seeing the truth, unfortunately, because he thinks self is the agent. In verse 17, Bhagavan discloses a truth, a fundamental truth. A person who has no sense of doership, even if he kills these people, the enemy people in the other side of the army, he does not kill, nor he is bound by his actions of killing. I repeat, a person who has no sense of doership, that is important. If you have no sense of doership, even if that person kills the people in the other side of the army, that is enemy army, he does not kill, nor he is bound by his actions of killing. Best example is you take any army man. If he kills an enemy, he is not sentenced to death. On the other hand, even in this world he is rewarded. He will be put a lot of medals. He does not kill for a selfish reason, for an egoistic reason, because somebody parked his car in his parking lot. That is not the reason for which he is killing. So that is why Bhagavan says, a person who has no sense of doership, without the sense of doership, even if that person kills, he does not kill. That is what Bhagavan says. In verse 18, Bhagavan enters deep into the science of all actions. Bhagavan says, knowledge, the object of knowledge, and the knower are the threefold impulses to action. Impulse to action. The organs, the action, and the agent are the threefold basis of action. So, what are the impulse to action? What is the basis for an action? I repeat this. This is very important verse. So, what is the impulse to action? Bhagavan says knowledge, object of knowledge, and the knower. These are the impulse to action. Then basis of action, the organs, the action, and the agent. These three are the basis of action. In verse 19, Bhagavan says, knowledge, action, and agent, they are threefold based on the gunas. Bhagavan takes up the topics one by one. First, knowledge. In verse 20, Bhagavan says, what is sattvic knowledge? Sattvic knowledge is that by which one sees one indestructible reality or changeless substratum or existence in all the things and beings, the undivided among the divided. This is the one reality, self. The self in me is a self in all. The man who sees that sattvic knowledge, that knowledge is called sattvic knowledge. In verse 21, Bhagavan says, what is rajasic knowledge? Rajasic knowledge is one by which one sees the different kinds of beings as different from one another. He does not see the oneness, but see the separateness of all beings. That is Rajasic knowledge. In verse 22, Bhagavan says, what is Tamasic knowledge? Tamasic knowledge is one in which one is committed to one single effect as though it is everything, which is illogical and without truth. Whatever view you take, you hold on to it. Only my thing is correct. Fanatic types of people are included in this category. Now Bhagavan takes up, he has completed knowledge, three types of knowledge. Sattvic, Rajasic and Tamasic. Now actions, three types of actions. Sattvic, Rajasic and Tamasic. In verse 23, Bhagavan says, what is Sattvic action? Sattvic action is one, which is obligatory, that is as per Shastras. Two, which is done without attachment. Three, without being impelled by likes and dislikes. Four, without a binding desire for result. That is sattvic action. So four conditions must be satisfied. One is it must be an obligatory action prescribed by Shastras. That even that obligatory action is to be performed without attachment. You should not be impelled by likes and dislikes, and it is performed without a binding desire for result. That is sattvic action. In verse 24, Bhagavan says, what is Rajasic action? Rajasic action is one which is performed. What are the conditions? One, who has longing desires or for gain. So Rajasic type of people have longing desires. I want that, I want this, I want that, I want this. One. Two, done with arrogance or egoism. I am doing it with that mind. Three, with lot of exertion. From morning 6, we are all doing Rajasic. We want money. From morning 8 to evening 9, work, work, work with lot of exertion. That is called Rajasic action. In verse 25, Bhagavan says, what is Tamasic? Tamasic action is performed due to delusion. That is point number one. Two, without regard to the natural consequence, loss or injury to others. What happens to others, you are. I don't mind, sir. Whatever happens to the world, I don't see. Three, without taking into account one's own capacity or ability. This is very, very important. All cannot do all jobs. You must know your ability. You must assess yourself. Whether I can do this job. Can I do the Prime Minister's job? Impossible. I should understand that. I may wish for it. I want to become a Prime Minister. But can I do it? Can you? What is your capacity? What is your mental caliber? So all these things are necessary. One must know his own capacity. Bhagavan says, without taking into account your own capacity, if you try to perform the action, that is tamasic action. Third, Bhagavan takes up the next topic, agent or karta. In verse 26, Bhagavan says, Sattvic agent is one conditions, who is free from attachment. That is one. Two, who has no ego. The Sattvic person has no ego. Three, who is endowed with resolve and enthusiasm. And four, who is perturbed in success and failure. Very, very important. Bhagavan gives four conditions for Sattvic agent. He is free from attachment, he has no ego, he is endowed with the resolve and enthusiasm. Even if he fails, same resolve, determination, and with the same enthu, he will perform. He will not give up. And he is not affected by success or failure. Whatever happens, he will go ahead. That is Sattvic agent. In verse 27, Bhagavan says, the one who has desire for the results of action. Who is Tamasic agent? Tamasic agent is one condition number one. He has the desire for results of action. Two, he is greedy. Three, his nature is to hurt others. Four, he is not clean. And five, he is subject to elation and depression. He is a Rajasic agent. All conditions were wonderfully put. One, he has got a desire for results of action. Money. He is greedy. That is why he opens a shop at 6 o'clock in the morning and closes the shop till at 10 p.m. in the night because he is greedy. His nature is to hurt others. He is not minding it. Who is not clean? 6 o'clock if he goes to the shop, how can he take a bath or brush his teeth? He will go as it is. He won't even have time to comb his hair. Who is subject to elation and depression? Success comes, he will jump. Depression, he will give up. So that is Rajasic agent. In verse 28, Bhagavan says, again, who is a Tamasic agent? One, who is always disturbed or unsteady. Always. Two, immature or vulgar. Three, irreverent or unbending. Four, deceptive or cheating. Five, cruel or malicious. Six, lazy fellow. Seven, given to sadness. And eight, a procrastinator. You give any work, he will say tomorrow. He is a Tamasic agent. According to me, Bhagavan hates lazy people. He has used all the words in the dictionary to describe this Tamasic type of agent. Because Bhagavan thinks they are a burden to the society. So that is why he has given so many adjectives to the person. Now Bhagavan takes up the next topic, mind. Very, very important. The threefold nature of mind. In verse 29, Bhagavan says, Hey Arjuna, listen to the threefold nature of your buddhi or intellect and of resolve or fortitude. Sattvic, Rajasic and Tamasic. Everything throughout Bhagavad Gita, if you see, everything is put in three baskets. Sattvic, Rajasic, Tamasic. Sattvic, Rajasic, Tamasic. Sattvic, Rajasic, Tamasic. In verse 30, Bhagavan says, The buddhi which knows. What is sattvic buddhi? One. The buddhi which knows. One. The pursuit of action and renunciation. Two. What is to be done and what ought not to be done. Clearly, that person will know. Three. What is to be feared and what ought not to be feared. And four. What is bondage and what is freedom. So the buddhi that knows all these things is sattvic buddhi, sattvic intelligence. In verse 31, Bhagavan says, the buddhi which wrongly understands one, dharma as adharma. Two, what is to be done and what ought not to be done. So rajasic intelligence. He gets confused. What is dharma and what is adharma? What I should do and what I should not. I get confused. Rajasic buddhi. In verse 32, Bhagavan says, the buddhi which is one, covered with ignorance because of delusion, avidya. Two, considers adharma as dharma, opposite. Whatever is adharma, he will think it is dharma. And three, all things in a perverted manner. Whatever is there in the Shastra, he will understand it in a perverted manner. So that is tamasic buddhi or intelligence. Now Bhagavan takes up the next topic, resolve or attitude, or fortitude. In verse 33, Bhagavan says, what is sattvic resolve? Sattvic resolve is one in which by practice of yoga, one, the activities of the mind, two, the prana, and three, the senses are restrained. So practice is very, very important. You cannot control the mind easily. Then it is next inner is prana. Then the senses. All these three have to be controlled by practice of yoga. That is sattvic resolve. In verse 34, Bhagavan says, the resolve with which one holds to his duties, craving for the fruits or results of actions, two, for pleasure and security, that is rajasic resolve. In verse 35, Bhagavan says, the resolve in which one, thinking is improper, two, excessive sleep, three, fear, four, sorrow, five, depression, and six, intoxication or arrogance. It is of tamasic resolve. Bhagavan takes up the next topic, that is happiness. Till today I didn't know that happiness is of three types. Bhagavan says happiness is also of three types. In verse 36, Bhagavan says, hey Arjuna, please listen to three types of happiness, by which one discovers joy by repeated practice of meditation and gains the end of sorrows. In verse 37, Bhagavan says, Yattadakre vishamiva pariname mrutopamam tatsugam sattvigam proktam atma buddhi prasadajam. Bhagavan says that which is like poison at first, but in the end it is like nectar. That happiness is sattvic happiness. It is born of purity of one's own mind due to self-knowledge. In my view, all good things, whatever you take, including reading Bhagavad Gita, first it will be like poison only. Later on, it turns out to be a nectar. Any good thing in this world you take. So that is why Bhagavan says, initially it will look like poison, but it will turn to be a medicine, nectar. Even the medicine, the doctor prescribes medicine. The tablet is of my size. You can't gulp it. The water will get inside and the tablet will remain in your mouth. It will look like poison. You want to spit it out. But that treats your body. You get cured. So initially it is like poison, and at the end it is like nectar. That is sattvic happiness. What is rajasic happiness? Bhagavan says, Vishayendriya samyogat yattadakre mrutopamam pariname vishamivam tatsugam rajasam smrutam. Bhagavan says that happiness which arises from the contact of sense organs with the sense objects, that is sense pleasures. At first it is like nectar, but later on it is poison. This is rajasic happiness. You take any contact with any object. Initially it gives you pleasure. Later on the same thing. You want to get rid of it, but unfortunately you are unable to. So it is rajasic happiness. That also gives happiness. It is not that it is not giving happiness. It gives you happiness. In fact, that is the one which gives you more happiness because it is immediate. So people go after it. But that is of rajasic type. In verse 39, Bhagavan says, Tamasic happiness is one which in the beginning and in the end, it is self deluding, born out of sleep, laziness, and indifference. Here also there is happiness, but it arises out of delusion. So that is tamasic happiness. The balance verses we will see tomorrow. Arihom Sarvam Krishnarpamastu. Narayana 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 Narayana